Hello, my name is Diane, and today I just want to do a little reading check-in. And this is gonna be a little check-in. I really haven't been reading much this year at all. I'm currently reading a lot of books, but as far as finishing books, I haven't been doing a great job at that. So I've only read 6 books this year, or finished reading 6 books this year. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about each of them because I just don't think it's gonna take that long. And then after, I'll tell you all of the things that I'm currently reading because I am really enjoying all of them and really excited about all of them. I just haven't been prioritizing reading when I find myself with free time. But hopefully that will change this month and I'll have more time to dedicate to reading. So in no particular order, one of the books I read this year was Level Unknown by David Dalglish. This is the first book in a new series that the second book's already out and the third book is set to come out, I think, in September. So not a lot of wait time at all between installments in this series, but this is a lit RPG following a main character who lives on a spaceship. It's like a research station that his brother runs, and they discover an artifact on this planet that they're investigating, and one day it suddenly activates and our main character is pulled into this other world. So his real world is a sci-fi setting. Obviously they live on a space station, and then the world that he gets pulled into is very classic fantasy. However, that is where the progression fantasy elements come into play, where there is a leveling system and experience points and magic restrictions and things like that. And in this book we see him trying to figure out what this place actually is, what his place within it is, if any of it's real, or if it's just like a virtual simulation of something. This was my first lit RPG. It's still the only lit RPG I've read, so I don't really have any comparison within the subgenre of how this holds up to other books or series, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked figuring out this world alongside our main character. There are definitely high stakes within his real world of what's going on there, which we get to see through his brother. I had a lot of fun with this. I like David Dalglish's writing style. I liked exploring both of these worlds and getting to know all of these characters. I also read The Sword Unbound by Gareth Hanrahan, which is the second book in the Lands of the Firstborn trilogy. I love this series. I love everything about it. I love the main character. Our main character was previously one of the 9 heroes that saved the lands, and years later he finds out that something else is coming and he tries to go and get everyone back together, but it's been a very long time. Everyone's doing their own thing at this point. No one's really interested in being the hero anymore. He's not really interested in being the hero anymore either, but he is interested in just being on the good side of whatever's happening and doing what's right to help everyone, and ends up finding out that there isn't a clear-cut good and evil anymore. I really like all of the characters, which is kind of a shame because I feel like no one in this series is safe, and I am really nervous about the conclusion of the series because I'm not convinced that our main character is safe either. But I do really like this large cast of characters. There's a lot of places in the world that we get to explore, and there's a lot of history in all of these places and what's been going on, the relationships between everyone. And I really love seeing that in fantasy. I think it's very well fleshed out. I'm excited for the ending, but I also really don't want it to end because I enjoy being in this world so much. I also read Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett, which is the conclusion to the Emily Wilde trilogy. I liked this one. I think it's, of the 3 in the series, I think it's the weakest installment, but I did still very much enjoy it. It's not really saying much because I really liked the first 2. I wish we had gotten to spend a little more time with Emily and Wendell specifically together, and just Emily spending more time in the Fae realm in general. At this point they've made it very easy for them to travel between her world and the Fae realm, and she does do a lot of traveling back and forth. We do get to catch up with all of the characters from the first 2 books in the series and see how everybody's doing. So it felt like a good wrap up to everything that has happened so far, but I was hoping for some more of the fairy politics and just spending more time interacting with the Fae in their realm with all of the strange magic that's happening. So it wasn't quite as good as I was hoping, but my expectations were kind of high because the second book was my favorite in the series. But overall, I did really like this series. I thought this was a good conclusion and did wrap everything up without making it feel like there couldn't possibly be more. Like, it set our characters up for whatever their future may be, whether we get that in more books or not. I also read The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. This is a story that there's an area called the Wastelands, and it's like a fantasy Trans-Siberian train. But the train passes from one country to another by passing through this very dangerous wastelands. And on the previous trip, something happened to the train, although no one on board remembers what happened. So this follows the first trip since that incident, and we get to follow along with the various passengers and crew and see what is actually going on in the wastelands and how strange and dangerous they seem to be. I really liked the majority of this story, but I did feel really disappointed in the ending. There's a lot of really weird, like, nature magic of the wastelands creeping into the train and affecting the people on board. There's also this mystery of some of the people on board, and I really enjoyed that, but there's also this air of mystery of the company behind the train and that they've done something, and I just felt very underwhelmed by the reveal at the end that I don't feel like revealed anything really significant or impactful. But I enjoyed everything up until that. So I liked the journey, but I didn't love the way everything wrapped up. I also read At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce. This is a paranormal horror story about two girls who their parents pass away in an accident, and the only living relative they have is this aunt that they don't really know, and she's a horrible person. They end up going to live with her, and she agrees to do this because she knew that her brother was very wealthy, and she's thinking that she's gonna get to spend his money if she's taking care of the kids. Unfortunately for her, they are given a certain allowance every month out of their inheritance. They don't have access to their full amount until they turn 18, and by then they're adults, so she has no control over it anymore. And her whole goal is to build this diamond empire. She's obsessed with diamonds. And we find out that the two girls have these abilities where one of them can see ghosts and the other one can, like, see people's emotions or something through colors. So the girl that can see ghosts realizes that there are ghosts in this woman's house, in her garden, and she thinks that their aunt killed them, and they have to try and prove this and get out of there. I thought there would be a bit more mystery in, like, kind of dancing around each other of them figuring out what happened, and the aunt trying to conceal the fact that she's as horrible a person as she is. And she just felt kind of comically evil in her weird obsession with diamonds, while simultaneously, I mean, she murdered people. She murdered a bunch of people, but she didn't feel as evil and manipulative toward the girls as I would have expected. She just wants money so she can have a diamond business, which is so weird. I don't know, it was fine. I mean, I read the whole thing, so it wasn't horrible. It wasn't quite what I thought I was getting into, and I didn't love it. On the other hand, a book that was a pleasant surprise is The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. This is a fantasy romance. In this, we follow a main character who is essentially traded by her brother to marry this guy from another kingdom, and the hope of the brother is that he has this horrible reputation and will somehow harm or kill the sister, and then he'll have the right to wage war on them, basically sacrificing his sisters so that he can reasonably go to war with this other place. However, it doesn't work out that way. After a series of events, she ends up allying with this guy. She definitely hates him in the beginning, and he doesn't realize that she had no say in this marriage. So their opinions of each other are kind of skewed because of the way that the marriage was presented to each of them individually. And they didn't really get a chance to discuss anything before getting married. They definitely develop a romantic relationship throughout this book, but I do feel like it built in a reasonable way where they don't just immediately fall in love with each other. There are a couple of spicy scenes that I could have lived without, but it's not like the constant lusting that is in some romance books. That's something that I really don't like when there are really interesting things going on in the world, because I did think this world was interesting. There's a magic system that is very interesting to learn about and how the different kingdoms treat magic. And there's also a lot of political maneuvering that I always enjoy seeing. And we do get to spend a lot of time doing all of these things. There are a lot of twists and turns by the end of this. There's a lot of action at the end of this book in particular. And I ended up having a lot more fun with the story than I expected to, given that it's a romance story. As for what I'm currently reading, I'm not going to talk too much about these because I'm at varying points in all of them, and a number of them are sequels. But I am reading Level Ascension by David Dalglish, which is the sequel to Level Unknown. The Sword Triumphant by Gareth Hanrahan, which is the conclusion to the Lands of the Firstborn trilogy. Echo of Worlds by M.R. Carey, which is the conclusion to the Pandemonium duology, which started with Infinity Gate. The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward, which is the first book in the Soulfire saga, which I'm pretty sure the whole trilogy is published at this point. The Memory of the Ogisi, that comes out later this month by Moses Osiotomi, and this is the final book in the Forever Desert trilogy. The Witch's Boy by Kelly Barnhill, which is a standalone. And I also just started The Full Moon Coffee Shop by Mai Mochizuki. Currently reading more books than I've finished reading at this point in the year. Hopefully this month I'll finish all of them, or at least a few of them. Let me know what you're reading, if you have any standouts at this point in the year of things that you've really loved. I would love to hear about that. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.